adding a brain to your existing cameras in order to monitor major medical emergencies in the workplace. I'm Tonya Hall, and joining me is Brent Boekestein, co-founder and CEO at Vintra. Welcome, Brent.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome back. Remind us what Vintra does.
We help customers take overwhelming amounts of video data and turn it into actionable intelligence using deep learning. So our customers are large companies and large cities who want to try to make sense of all the video data coming at them, typically for safety, security, and operational and productivity needs.
In an age when employees of get all kinds of amenities, I don't know, maybe back rubs at work, professional massages, you have companies that are really doing a lot to help pamper their employees. People suffer major medical emergencies at work still with all of these extra things. So how can technology help us identify when that happens?
Yeah, the stats are pretty sobering. I mean, there are 325,000 instances out of the hospital every year. Let's just take sudden cardiac arrest. It's the leading cause of death in this country. It's called SCA for short. And 20% of those happen outside of the home. So a bunch happen outside the hospital, and about 20% of those happen outside the home. So you have 70,000 incidences of people dying every year of SCA outside the home, a good chunk of those in the workplace. And unfortunately, this often happens to people who are in lone worker scenarios, or they might be just by themselves in an area of the building or a part of their facility where someone can't get to them. And it's sad because 1 out of 10 people gets the care they need immediately following a sudden cardiac arrest event. 1 out of 10, that's it, 10%. But if 5 out of 10 could, and they'd live. So we're talking about tens of thousands of lives on an annual basis that we lose in this country at a place when you're getting sushi classes at lunch, right? If you're at a major tech company, they're changing your oil while you're working. You get 3 or 4 meals a day. And yet if you're that person walking the halls in the data center, or you're stocking the shelves at 2 a.m. at the retail facility, and you have a medical issue, the stats say you're likely to die. And so what we are working on is using deep learning and existing cameras to help identify people who've fallen at work. It's not really normal to fall at work and writhe on the ground. And we think that one of the best ways to start making a contribution towards shrinking those kind of overwhelming SCA numbers is, let's use existing cameras that we have. We already have eyes. Let's give them a brain that can allow us to detect when people have fallen. And let's start chipping away and getting that number from 10% of people who get the medical care they need up to 50% of the people that could get it and survive. Because there's the equipment's there, the defib equipment and other things that would help these folks out. And typically your security or safety staff are trained to respond to these. But you can't do that if you don't know a person's fallen.
How did you build the data set to program the algorithm?
Great question. So we're one of the leading firms working on synthetic data. So we've done a significant amount, hundreds of agents using synthetic data. So people that are actually virtual agents and falling to the ground. And we've recreated dozens and dozens and dozens of different environments, different camera viewpoints. Typically about 5% of our data is real. There's some existing public data sets. We did some of our own filming. Some of our customers had their own. But typically 5 to 10% of our data is real, and 90% is now synthetic, which allows us to train an algo on tens and tens and tens of thousands of incidences where the best publicly available data sets for this kind of use cases might only have thousands.
Give us an example of how this would work.
So we make a product today called Fulcrum AI, and it's a solution that you just plug into existing camera and video management system networks, and it can alert you on objects or events that are critical to safety and security use cases. And so by updating your technology with our build that'll be out here at the end of Christmas with this new release, customers will be able to set an alert for what we call our person down detector, which will alert them if someone's gone from basically standing to prone on the ground. They'll be able to get an alert. with an immediate view of the person, the camera that's on, when the incident happened, all kind of sub 4-second latency. And that's key because you have to get to someone if they've had a major medical incident like an SCA or a stroke, typically within 60 seconds or 2 minutes to be able to administer care. And when you have large campuses, whether they're corporate or university, which is kind of where we do most of our work, those seconds are key. You got to be able to get people out, rally them, validate someone's fallen, validate they had an issue, and get the care to them immediately.
Saving lives is priceless, but can this be implemented in a cost-effective manner? I mean, can we use existing cameras? You talked about that, and machine vision systems.
Yeah. So the key is existing cameras. You don't need to install new sensors. And this is one amongst many of the applications that we power. So typically leaders who are making this kind of decision look at, absolutely, we have a priceless life, but we still have to make a reasonable financial decision for the organization. So they'll look at the ability to do things like detect intrusions, which help stop cybersecurity or IP theft, as an example. They'll look at thwarting workplace violence incidences by being able to detect people who have restraining orders against female staff, as an example. And they'll take the accumulation of those and say, okay, this price to deploy this technology versus the typical $300,000 or $400,000 a year that it costs most organizations to monitor just 400 or 500 cameras. I mean, they're talking about $500,000 in some cases to monitor 500 cameras, which is a pretty typical number of cameras for a large organization or large campus. Our technology is substantially less expensive than that. And it turns out it works 24/7, is sort of doesn't take any vacations, doesn't need a rock star energy drink. And we were made as human beings for lions and tigers and bears, oh my, not sitting and staring at this data for long periods of time.
Brent Boekestein, co-founder and CEO at Vintra. If somebody wants to connect with you, Brent, what's the best way they can do that?
They can find us at vintra.io, or we've got a great YouTube channel that shows a lot of use cases as well if you just search Vintra.
Sounds good. Thanks again. And if you guys want to find more of my interviews, you can do that right here or go to tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.